and welcome to our joint webinar organised today by Animal Health Europe and FVE, the Veterinarian Association of Europe. We're still waiting for one of our speakers to join, but today I'm very pleased to say that we'll be talking about the chicken and egg question. Is animal health a prerequisite for or a consequence of animal welfare practices? And we'll be looking in particular about the question of dogs and cats. So I will already start by introducing the speakers who are here online already. So first we have our co-organizer, Nancy de Briyne, she's the Executive Director for FVE, the Federation of Veterinarians in Europe. Welcome, Nancy. We have Iwona Mertin. She is the companion animals leader at Eurogroup for animals. And we also have my colleague Pierre Sultana. He is the public affairs director at Animal Health Europe. So I think rather than wait until our MEP joins, we'll already start the conversation, and then I will say to the speakers, if you don't mind, when she joins, just let me have a pause so that I can introduce her properly. That would be very much appreciated. Thank you. So Nancy, as our co-organizer and as a veterinarian, can you tell us in a few lines how you would define animal welfare?
Well, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, actually. Indeed, there's many definitions of animal welfare, but one of the very simple one, and it's very old one, is being happy and healthy. Now, if we go to a more recent one, the ones that it's mostly used at this moment, it's one developed by Professor David Mellor, namely the 5 domains model. And this model looks at animal welfare by looking at nutrition, physical environment, so good living space, health, behavioral interactions, and all together these parts shape the overall mental well-being of animals. So if we just translate this briefly to dogs and cats, it means good animal welfare means that they have to have a balanced diet, fresh water, they have to have a comfortable living condition, they need regular preventive treatment and checkups and vaccinations, and they have to have the opportunity to play and to have mental stimulation, and all of that above will lead to minimizing stress and animals being in a good welfare.
Thank you, Nancy. I believe that our MEP speaker has arrived. I see Veronika. I presume, I don't know if we can get you set to speaker with the link that you have. I'm looking at our technical people to see if they can help us out here. Can you raise your hand again, please? And I don't know if it's possible to turn your camera on, if possible. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. So as I said, I would like to introduce our fourth panelist, and one of the most important here. This is MEP Veronika Vrecionová, and she is rapporteur on the current Commission proposal on the welfare of dogs and cats and their traceability. So if you're okay to go straight into things, MEP Vrecionová, I was going to ask you, can you outline for us maybe 3 or 4 key elements from your draft report on the Commission proposal for the regulation, and just highlight what you think is really important in terms of animal welfare and health for cats and dogs? Thank you.
Thank you. I am not sure. Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Because, you know, I am here all time, but I had some technical problems. So just now it's okay. You can hear me. You can see me.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. Thank you for organizing this very important discussion. Thank you for inviting me. And you asked me now about some of the most important things which I think that have been done. So there are not only 3, but you know, most pressing challenges now. I think it's first, it's illegal trade and illegal import from the third countries. puppy and kitten males, overpopulated and stray cats, online market or black market or however you want to call it, absence of common EU traceability system. I think it's very important. And animal cruelty cases, but it's also, I think, question of police and so on. I think that this is, in my opinion, the most important problems.
Perfect, thank you. So if I come back to some of the thinking, some of the points that you highlighted here, if I can turn now to Iwona from Eurogroup for Animals, I know that you have done a lot of work on, illegal trade of animals and topics like this, but can you highlight for us which to you are the most pressing challenges when it comes to pet welfare in the EU today?
Yes, of course. First of all, thank you very much for having us. And, as you rightfully pointed out, together with our members, we've been, monitoring the issue for years and worked with many of you. I'm looking here in particular at Nancy to make sure that, the issues that are surrounding pets and cats and dogs are visible and become visible also to policymakers. So we're super grateful to the Commission when they came up with the proposal, and very grateful to Madame Rapporteur and to her team that they really put their kind of heart and understanding of the issues. So what Madame Vrecionová already said, it really resonates with us in terms of, what has to be targeted. If I could, highlight one more thing, would be that, clearly there's a disparity of rules across the EU. We have different standards, different laws that are applicable in one country and, in another. Then regionally, we have disparities. So, this is really one and only opportunity for us to set the standard and to make sure that all the animals are actually properly, identified and traced. So that, and then if I could add one more thing, that would be certainly the fact that we kind of, I think, reached the point that we are having these animals that are actually not fit for purpose. Because what is the purpose of the animal here and of the companion animal? Is the companionship, isn't it? It's the meeting our needs and meeting what, this inner desire to have someone to be around. And if we're having these animals that actually can't function, can't live properly, we are unaware of things that are happening to them before they come to us, I think this is, clearly something that has to be targeted. Yeah.
Thank you. And so I'll stay with you for a minute. Do you think that some of these challenges that you have identified, are they addressed adequately in the proposal, or has the report published by MEP Vrecionová, has that complemented in any way, or is there anything missing that you think is not in the proposal right now?
I would say that all the elements have both the proposal, the council position, and the draft report have a very good elements in them, and they really complement each other on some levels. So now the issue is to make sure that actually we can bring it all together and the policymakers can work it out on how to have the best impact. Because for us the key is really to make sure that all animals identified, registered, can be traced back, and we know where they're coming from, and we know that what the consumer is signing up for when they're acquiring an animal.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Nancy, can I get your opinion on that as well as a veterinarian? Do you feel that some of the pet welfare challenges identified here are addressed in the proposal? And have you spotted anything that might be missing, particularly coming back to our question of, is it welfare first, health first, or both? Do they both work together? Are both adequately addressed enough in the proposal?
Yeah, I just complement what has been said earlier. Also, as FE, we have been long calling for this proposal, and we're really happy now that this proposal is on the table. And as said in all, both original proposal as the Council negotiating documents and the reports of the European Parliament, they all have all the main elements in them, both on health as on welfare. So specifically, we are very happy with the mandatory identification and registration, the preventive healthcare provisions, responsible breeding and ownership, and veterinary oversight, including on the end of life, so euthanasia done by a veterinarian, and the aspects of extreme breeding, which is really a crucial issue for companion animals. And similarly, as what Iwona mentioned, for us, the most important fundamental principle is that all dogs and cats deserve a minimum standard of health and welfare. So not only the ones that are commercially traded, but all of them, including stray animals. I think one other very important thing is once this proposal is adopted, hopefully before the end of the year, then the real work will start, because then we have to make sure that all these good rules we have now will be implemented, that everybody will be made aware, and that they will be enforced properly. And that will be the next step.
Exactly. Okay, Pierre, can I get you to come in on that question? If you could give your views on how well the proposal and the various reports address the challenges in Europe for pet welfare.
Yeah, for us as well, we could see that our companies moving towards cats and dogs, health and welfare, and this aspect takes an increasing importance in their respective portfolios. So for us, we're also very happy to see this Commission proposal on the table. And yes, important issues are addressed, but they could have been addressed in an even better way from our point of view. The Commission proposal tries to answer important concerns for the welfare of cats and dogs, such as illegal trafficking, abandonment, or the importance of bringing healthy cats and dogs in our lives. Hence, perhaps I'll focus on 3 points: identification and registration. That's something we already heard a lot. Preventive animal health care and human-animal bond. So the report from MEP Vrecionová goes further on some of these points, definitely. And this is also a very welcome step. One on identification and registration. So INR is definitely the prerequisite for responsible ownership. If you are a responsible owner, then you should have your dog or cat properly registered electronically and registered on a trustable database. On the one hand, it helps, reunifying the lost animals with their owners. On the other hand, it can also help to trace the animal's history, and in case of problem, I mean, in terms of illegal activities, but also in terms of health related questions. So, as such, any steps towards mandatory identification and registration is, of course, very welcome. And for the animals, as Nancy and Iwona said before, for the animals which are involved in commercial practices, but also beyond them, so for every cat and dog. In this regard, by the way, we are a little bit concerned by some of the discussions in the Parliament, which propose to bring back tattoos, for example. We don't have the feeling that it's the ideal solution and the fit for future solution. 2, preventive animal health. So the Article 13.2 of the Commission proposals allows for preventive use of some animal health products, sorry. That's essential as cats and dogs can carry diseases, and some of them are contagious among companion animals and are deadly can be even deadly for them. Some can be transmitted to humans. When in times where cats and dogs share our homes and even in some cases our beds, then we would definitely don't want them to bring diseases home, or eventually parasites, which in turn bring the diseases home. Yeah. So for this reason, this article 13.2 is essential. We would have loved to see perhaps a little bit more wording on some more preventive tools such as vaccination. Yeah, in this regard. And the third point is on human-animal bond in the current situation, and especially we saw this with COVID. It would where the place of animal and the role of animal has been so important and is increasingly important for so many Europeans. It would have been fair to have this bond acknowledged somewhere in the recitals, for example.
Yeah, very good point. Coming back on what Nancy said about the real work starts once, the final regulation is published, and there we need to look at how it's implemented. If we think back to prior to the publication, when the Commission was running its fitness check for all of the animal welfare legislation package, one of the, I think, most striking findings was that it wasn't always a case of all of the elements of the rules being up to standard. It was sometimes a case of them not being implemented correctly or not abided by within the member states. And I was wondering, MEP Vrecionová, if you could give us a view on how can authorities ensure that breeders and etc. adhere to the rules once they're published? Can you unmute? I think you're muted. Sorry, I think you need to unmute. It's still muted.
I have it now. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
perfect.
Okay, but you turn it off, not me. Okay. Okay, sorry. Maybe it will be the most useful if I will just now tell you the procedure, and I will a little bit tell you more about it. What I expect that happen now here in the European Parliament, something like timetable. First shadow meeting here will be 12th of March. Then we will vote it in Agri. It's supposed to be 8th of April this year. But just now I really expect the situation is very complicated, because this is issue which everybody understands, because most of people in the European Union have some cats or dogs or their neighbor or something like this. So all members of European Parliament think that they understand this this proposal. And just now, as I asked my colleague, we have here on the table is something like 600 amendments. I expect really horrible, complicated discussion. So then, similar to the Commission and the Council proposal, my goal is to increase welfare of all dogs and cats and to prevent illegal import and the exercise of puppy and kitten mills. I was talking about this. And it's very important, don't have this regulation to affect ordinary pet owners, because, in any case, I would like to find some balance. It's very important. In any case, the people will not take care if we will be too strict. And I don't know if you go to countryside in my country or everywhere, if you will put a lot of new duties to the people. They will kill this animal. It's horrible, that is the reason if we want to protect them, we really have to find balance. I maybe tell you something more about priorities in this proposal. Yes, yeah. It's a ban on the sale of dogs and cats in pet shops. We already talked about it, pet stores. By the way, in my country, it's forbidden. Restriction on tethering, registration of all breeding facilities, obligation to chip dogs and cats for sale. I know that this is, by the way, I expect the horrible discussion about this, because I know that a lot of let's say people who understand it, they want to have it for all animals, but I'm really afraid that we will be not able to have it, and I would like also to find political support here, and we will be not able, and I'm afraid that if we will go too far, the colleague will not, this proposal, it can, fall down, and that's what I don't want, that is the reason. And really, if you go to countryside in Romania, Czech Republic, Slovakia, you can see that the people will not take their cats to the doctor for chipping. That's much more easier for them to kill this animal, and that is the reason I would please to help me to find this balance. So then it's a possible neutering and chipping of stray cats. Stray cats is very important because we have a lot of stray cats. EU database, and it is very important to have one database in the European Union which will be interoperable with national databases. For example, in Czech Republic, we have just now the chipping of dogs. It's obligatory, but we don't have, even in Czech Republic, we don't have one database. So it's a lot of cases, it's for nothing. So I maybe have to, just during the debate in the committee about the draft report, you can hear that some shadows want to have, it's what I am talking about, chipping for all the dogs. We must be ambitious, but it's what I am talking about again, because my colleague prepared me here some paper, but it's what I am, that, we really, it's very important to find some balance, to have, to move this little bit further, and to have some, some legislation which we really can use. And it is, we have all time to think about it. This is a European legislation. It's minimal, and I think that a lot of member states can, they can have more, but we have to have just now minimal, and just now the situation in every member state is absolutely different. Yeah. There are some countries where they, have legislation now even better, but there are a lot of countries and they have nothing. That is the reason just now we have really to find some minimal compromise, let's say. So this just now, I hope that I told you everything what's from my point of view.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I think that was very, very useful information. And I totally understand the point of not over-regulating, so it's difficult for people to adhere, but then still having a minimum base so that we're trying to protect welfare of dogs and cats as much as possible. And I also have my fears of the interoperability of the databases, but fingers crossed that that will all work out for the better. Nancy, coming back to you, you mentioned that you were really pleased to see veterinary oversight mentioned in the proposal. What role do animal health experts like you veterinarians, but also the animal health industry, what role do you play in pet welfare more than the health side? I mean, you can perhaps talk about the preventive points that Pierre brought up, but on the welfare side, what role do the vets play as well?
If we look now in Europe on veterinarians, about 70% of all veterinarians, their main activity is on dogs and cats. So they really do this on a daily basis. This is their bread and butter, basically. Therefore, we really believe that it's important from the start, even from before people are deciding to buy a dog or a cat, to consult with their veterinarians, because then they can see which breed, for example, would fit the best, also the health aspects of each breed, and also what fits the best with the lifestyle of the people, because especially like having a dog is quite a big responsibility. Once that the dog and cat is in the house, there also the veterinarian can really give a lot of guidance to make sure that there is preventive care. Already Pierre mentioned it, vaccination is extremely important. I remember when I was still a veterinarian, each time that I had an animal with parvo or distemper, losing it with parvo and distemper, I felt terrible, because I knew we could have prevented it if the animal had just been vaccinated. The same for parasitic control. There also, it's important to prevent it. I think nobody wants to have fleas in their house. It's really terrible if you have to wash everything and disinfect everything. So there veterinarians play a huge role. Another part of the veterinary profession that also plays a huge role is official veterinarians, because they're the ones that inspect all the different facilities, the breeding facilities, the other trade facilities. And with this proposal, the role of official veterinarians will really be strengthened a lot. And this is something I know from our members that are official veterinarians, that they really wish for, also for transport, how you can transport dogs and cats. This is really crucial, as at this moment we didn't had anything on that one, and then there's only national legislation and no European legislation. So yeah, huge roles. And if I'm allowed, I just would like to come back very briefly on the earlier discussion. I think indeed one of the things Mrs. Vrecionová mentioned was the ban on the sales of dogs and cats in pet shops. I think that's a really important one. That was missing in the Commission proposal. It's hardly done in any countries anymore, because yeah, it's not good for the health and welfare of the animals, but also not good. It's societal, not accepted anymore. So it's really very excellent that the Parliament has taken up this proposal to ban the sales of dogs and cats in pet shops. And the other thing is, finding a balance is really important, because we want to continue having hobby breeders who really do the whole best and have these couple of litters in their kitchen and taking very good care of them. We want to continue having these in Europe, while we want to get stronger regulations for the ones that take it a little bit less serious with the health and welfare requirements. On identification and registration, we see that now already all European countries, EU countries, have identification registration for dogs. So that one is not so difficult. The cats, of course, is a next step, and that we will need some time there. And of course, when the regulation will come into force, not everything will apply from day one. Some things will need a little bit a longer transition period. But yeah, it is important to make sure that all animals have a minimum welfare protection.
Yes, thank you. Iwona, I'd like to come back to you with the point that Pierre raised. If we're talking about identification, this idea of going back to tattooing rather than microchipping, what is your views on that?
Yes, I mean, in principle, I think we should go with time and, progress and take into account that, at some point, if it's a microchip, it has to be registered. There has to be a number. It has to be according to certain standards. They have to be, hopefully embedded in law, and and the databases have to communicate with each other. So, while I appreciate the opening for other methods, I think, I'm wondering from very practical point of view, I think it would be very difficult to implement. That's one side. And on the other hand, it's a much more invasive procedure in terms of, for the animal. Because we have to then have full anesthesia. There is a process. There is a healing process as well. So I would say, I'm looking here back at Nancy. She, they're the best position to tell you in terms of health implications and so on. But from what we see and from what our members are doing, also within their own shelters, because we do have quite a lot of members with shelters, our members are also working with stray animals within Europe, but also in third countries, and that's usually a preferred method to work with.
Perfect, thank you. So maybe, Pierre, if I can go back to you now, when we talk about the role of the vets, what about the role of animal healthcare solutions? So things like vaccines or parasite control that you mentioned earlier. Can you give us a few examples of how these can help support pet welfare?
Sure. Yes. I mean, to start with, as Nancy was saying, animal or health is an important element of the animal's welfare. So, meaning the welfare of a sick animal is severely compromised. So, in terms of different, how to say, advantages that the health can provide, and the producers of veterinary medicines and animal health solutions can provide. Well, the most obvious is that animal health solutions can save lives. Yeah. When you have a pet, increasingly it's a member of the family, and you want this animal not only to live healthy, but also to live long. Yeah. So ideally, and according to our principles, prevent is better than cure. We want as much as possible the animal to not to get sick. So that's where the role of vaccines, the role of parasite control products do play an important role. They are even essential. Then, unfortunately, the disease is not always unavoidable. And in this case, when the animal gets sick, needs to be cured. Yeah, we don't want to go there, but when we have to, then the animals have to get medication and to recover. Then the part of the toolbox also is to not only speak about the health of the animal stricto sensu, but also to improve or to reduce discomfort. Yeah. So avoid scratching from parasites, creams for itchy or watery eyes, painkiller because the animal getting older. I mean, we know that very well also from the human side for all of us. And last but not least, the medicines or the part of the toolbox, as was mentioned, are the microchips, right? And so here they can really reunite the owner and the lost animal. So, and all these, at the end of the day, is really in order to allow companion animal and the owner to enjoy their human-animal bond. Yeah. So we know that most companion animal enjoy the human presence. Owner want their animal to live long and healthy, and eventually sickness, unfortunately, can be a reason for abandonment. Yeah. So therefore, working on the prevention there of the sicknesses. So yeah, I think that's a couple of tools from the toolbox that the animal health industry can provide.
Perfect, thank you. Coming back to MEP Vrecionová, I'm just thinking of the point mentioned about banning of extreme features, because of course, before we move to healthcare, we can ensure health and welfare through proper breeding. And I'd love to hear your views. Do you feel that the proposal goes far enough on raising awareness of the problems issued with extreme features? And please turn on your mic. Unfortunately, we can't do it from our end. I'm not sure why.
Okay, I have my macro is now. Listen, I was maybe talking about it. I think that this question is solved, in my opinion, quite good. But we will see. I am not sure. I ask my colleague now if some amendments have there some. They go far or not, or if is it just now in proposal. We have here.
Phasing out, otherwise killing of animals.
Já ti vůbec nerozumím.
Neřekni tam, že lepší postupně se toho
Jo. A my to máme tam teď nějak řešený, jako jenom ty základní ty nosy, ne?
Tak, že se k tomu vyjádří přesně komise, jako jak to bude definovaný, že ano, ale...
Yes, still, sorry, I have to just to ask just now, because we are waiting for the commission just now. They have to find some concrete solution. And it's again, because, this is, I think that this problem is every member state's a little bit different from history, and I know that they have sometimes it's very strange what people are doing with the animal, but we have to find again some minimal base how to find the solution of this, and we are just now waiting the commission, because they are tried just now. They want to find some let's say some proposal.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
I just asked about my colleague if some amendments of my colleague my colleague told me that there is now no amendments, which is yes.
We do not know. We have like 1,000 amendments.
Okay. Yes, there are more. We are not. We didn't have time till now to read all of them, because it's a huge number.
Of course, there's so many hundreds of amendments. Yeah. I can't expect you to know everything by now. Maybe Iwona, I come back to you on that question. Do you feel that the proposal covers that point enough? Do we need an awareness raising campaign in Europe? Is this something that we should be investing in, perhaps as stakeholders?
I think, this is one of the points actually that is being touched by various policymakers and, various institutions quite well. So in terms of extreme breeding, both the Parliament, the Council, managed to squeeze in quite good bits in. And so, we know that in general, there is a level of public awareness on that issue. But, you also have to look against human nature, because I can tell you from my own experience, not my own, sorry, my friend's experience, and that's not literally a friend, not me. They had a French bulldog who unfortunately at some point died because it was unbearable. He couldn't breathe. And then they said they will never get another one. They got another one. And that one also at some point got ill for various reasons. I don't know the details. They will never get another English bulldog, the French bulldog. And what did they do? They got another one. So with all the awareness I've done, and all the, these are like well-aware people, so to speak, they read articles, it's still there. So I think we will have always some desire for certain type of features, for certain type of breeds. So I think knowing how harmful it is for welfare, for health of these animals, I think the only way, I'm sorry, but we can do is to deal with the supply. And this is where the responsibility lies. It lies with the breeders, it lies with the policymakers, and also, ultimately with the consumer who is on the demand side, but still, we know that this is not always reasonable. So I think, it's a bit like, it's not exactly the same thing, but it's a bit like with, cigarettes, alcohol, whatever you can think of, there's this inner thing that we can't always control because of our psychology and, everything. But if I can just touch upon another point, not directly related to that, I would say that I think the key is in interpretation, because at some point we were talking about enforcement. The key is interpretation. The key are the definitions. And this is really what has to be done well. And I really feel sorry you got so many amendments. I feel truly sorry. It's almost like Digital Services Act. They had, I think, 3,000 responses just to the public consultation. So I really feel sorry. And, we are, I think, here all to also to help and to support you whenever you feel like it's needed. But I think that, that's the key, because enforcement, yes, this is super important. But how do we interpret? And sometimes it happens that we have an EU law, then each member state interprets the articles in a tiny bit different way, and it has an impact.
Can I just tell you one sentence, just one sentence, because last week it was 600 amendments, but just now colleague told me that it's wrong number, that it's 1,000 now. Sorry. It's even worse. I didn't know it, and we have to go through this. It will be very hard work. Sorry.
No, it's good to know it. We know it's a lot of work to do, indeed. Now, please, people who are following the webinar, if you do have a question, do pop them in the Q&A, and we will try to address them here. I want to come back again to you, Nancy, on the role of the vet. How has the role of the vet evolved over the years? I feel like you've really become advisors for pet owners. Can you maybe give us some information on how you've seen your role evolve over the years?
Yeah, I think it evolves continuously together with how society evolved and how we saw dogs and cats in our society. And this has really shifted, I think, really a lot, with a lot more attention to their welfare, to healthcare, to the quality of life of these animals, and a growing demand for responsible ownership and ethical treatments. If we looked also, for example, I just recently was in a country where there was a huge amount of stray dogs and stray cats. If we now look at most of the European countries, EU countries, we still have some stray cats, but we hardly have any stray dogs anymore. And in some countries, you even hardly have any stray cats anymore. So we really went a long way of making sure that every dog and a cat had a responsible owner. And the veterinary role went along with this. So much more advice and an educational role on, like I said before, what animals fit the best in a certain lifestyle that the people have, how to take care in the best way of animals, and also the treatment options. Already earlier, Pierre mentioned how much more sophisticated preventive care options we have, but generally the quality of care veterinarians can give now compared to like 10, 15 years ago has gone up enormously. So the role there of veterinarians and the whole industry has moved enormously. And if we now look also at, for example, many young people have dogs and cats, and they really expect a high quality care of them. So yeah, it really evolved a lot.
Yeah, and I saw the FE are celebrating 50 years of existence this year, so congratulations. You've clearly been doing a great job if we're seeing less and less strays. Iwona, can I come back to you with when Nancy started, she talked about the 5 domains of animal welfare rather than the 5 freedoms. And we know that animal welfare science has developed a lot over the past years. And I was wondering, do you have any tips for the animal health sector on how we can evolve in terms of what our offerings are linked to the evolution of science and animal welfare?
Yeah, I think just talking, making links to people that you didn't expect you would have things in common. Because, you know, I mean, the one main thing, and I'm sure many of you are already well aware, is the University Foundation for Animal Welfare. And this is, you know, actually the core where lots of animal welfare science is concentrated. I would also like to strongly recommend there will be a companion animals seminar in Milan, I believe, 18th, 19th of May, where main researchers on animal welfare, in particular on dogs and cats and companion animals, are going to be meeting. So, you know, I would recommend to follow that. But also just to touch upon what Nancy said, certainly things have changed. And, you know, it's not the same type of, I mean, not everywhere, obviously. You know, I'm from Poland, so, you know, my grandma had cats and they had a different life that my cat had later on when I lived with my parents as a young adult. So things change, and, you know, the functions and the roles of the animals change. But and why I agree that, you know, the accessibility to care, you know, to making sure that the health and welfare of the animal is maintained, it's important. But still, I think we are on a good path to making sure that the understanding is there, and that the more and bigger part of society knows that actually going to a vet is actually a necessity, so to speak. I know that this is difficult. I'm not saying that, you know, this is easy for everyone and this is accessible for everyone, but I think it should become like a, you know, like when you go with your child to pediatrician,
yeah,
that type of thing. But obviously, you know, that's a health side. But as you rightfully pointed out at some during this call, it's very much linked to welfare, obviously. So, you know, we are talking about animal behavioralists, and, you know, I would say, you know, at some point one should think of also standardizing this profession as well, because, you know, we have different standards according to different countries. People sometimes go take advice, and it's not a good advice always, huh? So yeah. But I think we're on a good path, and you, Mrs. Vrecionová, is in the epicenter of this decision making, and in particular that, you know, this is one and only opportunity probably in my lifetime.
No, you're not that old. Come on. MEP Vrecionová, please unmute yourself. So
no, I'm sorry, because I have now at 3 o'clock another meeting quite far away from here on the opposite side of the building. So I just really would like to thank you for this opportunity to discuss this issue with you here. I really can promise that I will try to do my best to really to do something for pets, and to find some compromise with colleague. But I can tell you that it's, I think somebody, Iwona, I think she was talking about it. I think that to have good legislation, it's not miracle. We have all time to talk to people, talk with veterinarian, politicians, and you and everybody, and to try to explain to everybody that to have pets home, it's not toy. That it's cost some money, it takes time, and it needs, we are responsible for this, and for this animal, and we are also responsible for animal who lives on the street. So, but it takes time, but I am sure that the situation is going slowly, but better and better and better. And thank you for your help, and see you again.
Thank you very much for giving us your time this afternoon, and we wish you all the best of luck with reviewing all those hundreds of amendments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye. Have a nice day. Thank you.
So I think if we move on a little bit before we come to our close, I was wondering, there is a question here about when it comes to third countries. So we talked about illegal trade, but there's also legal trade of animals coming into the countries. And this person, Zinabu Nigas, is asking, how do we work with these third countries when there's perhaps even less awareness about animal welfare? And he or she is saying even by the animal health professionals. I'd love to know how you would react to that question, Nancy.
Yeah, I think this is a really good question. And like I said, I just been in a country which has a much different reality than we have here in the EU, where there were a lot of stray dogs, a lot of stray cats. Now, they didn't have problems with extreme breeding, for example, or illegal internet trade of dogs and cats. So there are things that were better than here. But of course, there were also things that really, these stray animals need care also. So I think we need to look at it. What are the biggest priorities country per country? And in that case, I think in these countries, stray dogs and cats are the biggest problem usually. And there, WOHA, the World Organization of Animal Health, has their projects and their campaigns to try to control dog population. And I think that's really crucial. We need in these countries to make sure that animals are vaccinated, often against rabies, but also the other core vaccinations are neutered and are getting proper feeding and nutrition. So it really goes to the basics again. And there the country needs to do that together with many actors. So the animal health professionals are part of the team, but also a lot of NGOs play a crucial role there and are leading the process together with competent authorities. But I think there, especially all the actions that the WOA is doing are really fundamental.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Okay, so before I hand back to you, Nancy, to conclude, I will just invite Iwona and Pierre to give a final thought on our discussion today, and I'll let ladies first, of course.
Thank you. Well, I think the job is not over, as Nancy said. I think it just started, really. So I think we'll have to kind of keep our focus. I would encourage everyone to think of the title of the proposal, which is also, on the welfare of dogs and cats and their traceability, and keep that at the core. And I also wouldn't be complacent, because the gentleman here asked about, the status of the animals from third countries, but I wouldn't be complacent about our own health status, because I can just tell you that in Poznań, in Poland, there was a bad case, literally a bat, that was infected with rabies, or that there was another case, also a cat infected with rabies, or there was actually at the border of the EU cases in Ukraine. So I wouldn't be really complacent about, thinking and including all the animals, because should crisis happen or involuntary displacement of people or anything like that, these animals will also become a part of the move, and these animals will maybe eventually end up in the shelter, and then the shelters are going to have problems because if animals are not vaccinated or not traced, then things get difficult and a bigger population then is at stake, not just this one animal.
Yeah, still a lot of work to do. Pierre, your last thoughts, please.
Thank you. And perhaps before, very shortly to answer the question in the chat or in the Q&A, I think that everyone has their role to play in making partners in third countries aware of the legislations, and many actors have been very good at doing so in campaigns, for example. Yeah, whomever the campaign come from, be it the NGOs, be it the animal health companies. The vets, of course, are the natural top person, I would say, to the animal owner in general. But campaigns are not to be neglected. And for those who are traveling and taking planes, one of the most famous posters is if not the most famous poster in the airports, is talking about cats and dogs entering the European Union. So there is here a good practice, perhaps, to continue as well and to build on. Thoughts. I think it's fantastic to have this opportunity to improve the welfare, the health, and the traceability of these animals. Who are sharing our homes and our lives. I won't go further than that. Thanking the Commission for that and wishing good luck to Madame Vrecionová for, first of all, her already excellent work and the continuation for the amendments.
Yes, thank you, Pierre. So thank you, everyone. I now hand over to Nancy for the final conclusions.
Well, thank you very much. I think this was a really nice webinar. I think my main conclusions are, at this moment, we have a big step forward. We have a draft legislation that hopefully will be adopted before the end of the year. And it will not be perfect, but it will be a huge step forward. I completely agree with Iwona. We shouldn't be complacent. Rabies remains a big threat. We should make sure we keep vaccinating, and identification and registration is really crucial for traceability if we have cases occurring, and not only to retrieve animals that get sick. And then, once we have the legislation, then we will all have to work hard to make people aware of this new legislation, to build in the trust of everybody having or selling or breeding dogs and cats, and to make sure that it's implemented and enforced. That will be the next big step. So I think it was really a nice webinar, and I thank Animal Health Europe greatly for organizing this, and all the speakers, and the same. We hope that the 1,000 amendments will be able to be summarized in a couple of main ones, and that then an agreement will be able to be made between all the different institutions, so that soon we have a legislation in place. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you all. Have a great rest of afternoon, and you know where we are if you want to speak to us. Thanks.